Forget everything Hollywood taught you about the Old West. The real frontier looked nothing like the movies. These legendary gunfighters didn't all fall in dramatic standoffs beneath burning sunsets. Most met quiet, uncomfortable endings. Some were taken by sickness. Some were betrayed by people they trusted. Others faded into old age, alone and largely forgotten. Here are 18 true stories the movies rarely show you. If you enjoy real history over fantasy, support the channel and stay with us till the end. Buffalo Bill turned the frontier into a traveling spectacle, bringing cowboys and native performers to crowds across America and Europe. Few people realized that when he died in 1917, he had almost nothing left to his name, staying in his sister's home in Denver. But what followed became stranger than any show he ever staged. His body remained unburied for half a year, preserved again and again, while officials argued over where he should be laid to rest. When he was finally buried at Lookout Mountain in Colorado, the town of Cody, Wyoming, claimed Denver had taken what belonged to them. Rumors spread that the real body was secretly moved. Colorado even reinforced the grave with concrete to stop possible tampering. Long after his death, Buffalo Bill continued to divide towns, becoming a symbol of how legends refuse to rest quietly. Bat Masterson became famous in Dodge City, a town known for violence, saloons, and sudden gunfire. He faced down outlaws, exposed crooked gamblers, and walked away from fights that left others bleeding in the dirt. But the ending of his story surprises most people. Masterson left the frontier behind and started a new life in New York City. The feared lawman traded revolvers for a suit and tie, writing boxing columns for a major newspaper. On October 25, 1921, at the age of 67, he collapsed at his desk mid-sentence while working on another article. A heart attack ended the life of a man who had escaped death countless times, not in violence, but in silence. Wyatt Earp, 1923. Years before his death, the man behind the most famous shootout in frontier history was living in Los Angeles, trying to guide filmmakers on how to tell his story. He walked through movie sets, advising young actors who could hardly believe they were meeting a man whose name had already become legend. Strangely, he was never paid for his time. When Earp passed away in 1929 at the age of 80, the same actors he advised carried his coffin. One of Hollywood's biggest stars was seen wiping away tears at the funeral. The man who survived gunfights and ambushes died peacefully in bed, something rare for men of his world. Doc Holliday, 1887. He earned a dental degree in Philadelphia before his 20s were even over, but tuberculosis changed the course of his life. Doctors told him the dry western air might slow the disease, so he headed west with little to lose. The illness eased briefly, but his life took a darker turn. Instead of practicing dentistry, he discovered skill at cards and with a pistol. His name became forever linked to the shootout at the OK Corral, where violence exploded in less than half a minute. The illness never released its grip. He drank to dull the pain and lived from saloon to saloon. In the end, he died in a Colorado sanatorium, weak and thin beyond recognition. Looking at his bare feet, he reportedly smiled and said it was strange he wasn't dying in his boots after all. Annie Oakley didn't grow up famous. She was raised in deep poverty in Ohio, hunting as a child just to help feed her family. By selling the animals she brought home, she paid off her mother's mortgage before she was 15. At 21, she challenged a professional marksman named Frank Butler and won. A year later, they married. Together, they became the stars of Buffalo Bill's traveling show, performing before royalty and crowds around the world. When Annie died in 1926, Frank could not bear life without her. He stopped eating and passed away less than 3 weeks later. They were laid to rest side by side, partners in death, just as they had been in life. Billy the Kid became infamous before most people finished growing up. Orphaned young, he turned to theft in his teens. Stories claim he killed 21 men, one for each year he lived, though historians still debate the truth. What is certain is that he escaped jail more than once, even killing guards during a daring breakout. Pat Garrett, once his friend, was sent to track him down. On a dark night in 1881, Garrett waited inside a shadowed room. When Billy stepped inside, unarmed and unaware, 2 shots ended the life of the West's most hunted young outlaw. He was only 21 and already a legend that would outlive him by centuries. Davy Crockett became a folk hero in popular culture, often remembered for his distinctive hat and frontier image. In reality, he was a hunter, soldier, and even a member of Congress. After clashing politically with President Andrew Jackson and losing re-election, he left Tennessee behind and headed for Texas. In 1836, he stood among fewer than 200 defenders at the Alamo. When the fortress fell, Crockett was 49. Some accounts claim he died fighting. Others suggest he was captured and executed afterward. Conflicting records left behind a mystery that still divides historians today. Jesse James met his end far from any dramatic chase. After years of robberies, he was at home in 1882, adjusting a picture frame on the wall. A trusted partner stood nearby. When Jesse turned his back, the man fired into his head at point-blank range. The betrayal shocked the nation. The shooter had secretly arranged a deal with state officials for a pardon and reward. Jesse's death proved that even the most feared outlaw can fall in the quietest moments. Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid built a criminal network that terrified railroads and banks. When pressure mounted in the United States, they fled to South America and continued their robberies there. In 1908, after a heist in Bolivia, soldiers surrounded their hideout. Gunfire echoed through the night. When it ended, both men were reportedly dead. Yet the bodies were never confirmed beyond doubt. For decades, rumors claimed one or both survived and returned home under new names. Belle Starr was killed 2 days before her 41st birthday. Riding along a rural road, she was ambushed from behind. No one was ever convicted of the crime. Her life had been filled with outlaws, fugitives, and dangerous alliances. Any one of them could have wanted her gone. Her murder remains one of the Old West's enduring mysteries. Wild Bill Hickok became immortalized through the dead man's hand. A feared lawman and expert marksman, he let his guard down during a poker game in Deadwood. For the first time, he sat with his back to the door. An enemy approached quietly and fired without warning. When Hickok fell, the cards spilled from his hand. Aces and eights. A legend was born from a fatal mistake. Calamity Jane lived a life as wild as the stories told about her. She scouted for the army, crossed hostile territory, and exaggerated her own past whenever it suited her. Alcohol followed her for decades. By the time pneumonia claimed her in 1903, her body was worn down by years of hardship. She was buried beside Wild Bill Hickok, whether by her own request or as a cruel joke by the town remains unclear. Pat Garrett became famous for killing Billy the Kid, but his own life ended in sudden violence. During a dispute in New Mexico, he was shot from behind when stopped along a roadside. The case was closed quickly.
but many believed powerful interests wanted Garrett silenced. The truth was buried with him. John Wesley Hardin was one of Texas's deadliest gunmen. After years in prison, he claimed to have changed and even studied law, but his past caught up with him. In 1895, he was shot from behind in a saloon. The man who faced gunfights head-on never saw the final shot coming. Black Bart robbed dozens of stagecoaches without firing a single bullet. He left mocking poems behind at crime scenes, taunting the company that chased him for years. A single dropped handkerchief led investigators to his identity. After prison, he vanished from history, leaving behind rumors that no one could confirm. Bass Reeves rose from slavery to become one of the most effective lawmen in frontier history. He arrested thousands of criminals across dangerous territory and was known for disguises and sharp shooting. In spite of facing armed gangs, he was never seriously wounded. He died quietly from illness in 1910, a rare peaceful ending for a man who lived in constant danger. Tom Horn lived as a scout, detective, and hired gun. Accused of killing a teenage boy, he was convicted and sent to the gallows. To this day, historians debate whether he was guilty or made an example of. His execution remains one of the most controversial cases of the frontier era. Pearl Hart became known as the last stagecoach robber of the Old West. Her crime shocked the public because she was a woman. After prison, she faded into ordinary life. She died decades later, long after the world had forgotten the name that once filled headlines. Hollywood preferred legends who died in blazing shootouts. The real Old West ended more quietly, with sickness, betrayal, and time. Legends fade, but history remembers what the movies leave out.